is he was saying how we would define what a walker is to certain ages, and you use the word pedestrian for certain, older kids, and so the humor in the fact that people don't identify as a walker.
Oh,
and,
yeah. It's
walking,
a topic on this podcast a lot.
Yeah. So this thing is that to me, it really hit me in the sense that we really are. I love bikes. And I'm glad I'm the bike guy. But I really do feel that bikes are the cart before the horse. If you cannot learn and seeing young people being able to identify as a walker and recognize that that's their basic, learning the spatial, the normal, spatial distance, social spatial distancing that are really important right now. When it comes to walking and how to do so safely and how to deal with the environment around you, how to bring water, what to do, what kind of clothes to wear, all these things that you learn naturally over 3 generations have been lost. People don't do that anymore.
No.
So I thought of you, and to me, it's as much as I love the bike, I have to say, Andy, I really truly have to say, all of that is you do, and the running community in Bakersfield here, I think, is really underrepresented, underappreciated, and overlooked, because realistically, that's how we're going to meet with these kids. You can't expect a young person to come out and buy a $4,000 bike, or even, and it's going to cost you $1,000. That's not BS. It's going to cost you $1,000 to get a bike that a kid can beat on enough that he won't have to call mom and dad every day. So anyway, I wanted to say that. Sorry to take a little bit of time, but I did my hats off to all the walking and running people. And I hope to, in the future, as an advocate, be able to take, my goal here is to get my multi-subject credential and get back into education, which is where I believe I can make the most effect on getting active transportation and the positives that we all know come out of that.
Because I know you used to be working with the kids in school and stuff in the past. And
I used to hustle a lot just to try to write big grants that I would eventually just get beat up with by the funders. I realized that getting my teaching credentials was probably a little smarter, and then I could come in as an educator and have the union to help me, and then you can support that through your class and stuff. So that said, I think that integrating, and I think the successes that we're going to find, if we're going to find successes here in our valley, that is absolutely in need of those connections to change the progress moving forward, is to be able to make that path from walking to running to then using biking, busing, walking as an everyday part of their lives. Because I think that trying to get e-bikes on the bike path, albeit a wonderful, neat thing, adds more enforcement issues, training issues, lethargy issues, cost issues, gentrification issues. And so anywho.
Yeah. So you're kind of doing all this, but then how I met you was way back in probably the late 80s, right? Your parents owned the store down the street from me and the music business. So when did we roll into each other? Do you have any recollection? Probably I opened in 87. Probably met you pretty soon after then, huh?
I would say 87, because I remember the Welcome to the Jungle album,
poster.
the
band
poster, the big poster
of the band cover. The band cover. And so you guys had the pawn shop down the street. I guess that's what they call it, right? Or was that?
A Griffin, and pawn shop. Yeah.
And you used to work there and come in the store. And of course, how did you get? Were you in the music scene, right? When did you get kind of in the music scene in Bakersfield?
Well, see, I had the luxury of being able to, like many of us from our generation, to have a split home. So I was from 9 to 18, I would spend the school year in Oregon. And then, of course, every Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, spring break, I would come to Bakersfield. And so I was in the scene in both of our areas, but predominantly in Oregon until roughly 87 when I moved here.
Okay.
And then I met up with Mark Etch. It's funny because really Jennifer Dunn, I have to credit for, connecting me with a lot of people. I'd met her at BC So September of '88, I guess, give or take August, September. And she had introduced me to Ray Franco, and then Jason Howd, and then Alex Martinez, and Mark Echeverry, and John Charles, and many other. There was many people. I love y'all, but that said, but those were that kind of quickly grew into iconoclasm, essentially. And so really Mark and I, obviously as you're that age, you're way into music. And as you know, from Bakersfield, we were kind of post the pinnacle era of the 86, 85, sort of stuff. But there was still a lot of music going around, and there was still a lot of music. I mean, it was, I think in general, just not even here in Bakersfield, that those were the beginnings of some great music that was kind of coming out of a transition. You had Faith No More coming around. You had bands like Slayer still building and starting to blow up more. And anyway, that's it. So we started playing. In fact, I remember we did our first jam session in Rona's mom and dad's living room or something up by Oswell, somewhere off of Oswell in the 178, and some big old house. But anyway, that said, that sort of started us off. And I want to say our first show was '89, February 14th. St. Valentine's Day Massacre on Union at the Tropicana, right? It was so at the time it was an all-aged bar, and then it had a stage, and then it had apartments that were, who knows what the hell went on in those apartments that were attached right there off but it was, and Bakersfield's music scene, there was so many, especially at that time. I mean, you had all that, there was just, there was Sharp, there was Skin stuff going on, and that stuff still bubbling around. And, and then you had, I mean, it's funny because LAPD, which, eventually becomes Korn, or at least, most of them become Korn. They were, them, or like Truckin' for Jesus. I mean, there was also really humorous, satirical bands at that time too that weren't so uptight. But anyway, so we played a great show there. I think it was, I want to say Jay's band POD played. The guys Chalk and they ended up being having a radio show in LA. These two guys they actually went on to do really big stuff in radio. But so they did like a DJ rap.
The Vidal brothers.
Yeah, so they were called the Fabulous Baker Boys. That was their deal, right?
Yeah, and they were young.
Yeah.
They were
so,
anyway. 12, 13. Yeah. And then, of course, we had the examples talking about funny, goofy bands, precursor like Bare Naked Ladies and Dead Milkmen. They're the examples. The Mormon band was rocking it out with the humor. Yeah, I mean, it was a diverse scene, and I often kind of credit that because we were 2 hours from L.A., but we were 2 hours from L.A. So it's like you could hop down there, but there was a lot of not hopping down there, so we just kind of created the whole thing, and it was definitely a crazy time. I kind of got, I don't know whether it was lucky or just kind of got out of it, is that 1989 the Cure played Dodger Stadium, and a whole bunch of people came in the next day, and this young lady came in the store looking for a live demo tape, a live Cure cassette, and I've been married to her for 30 years now. So after about 89, I kind of quit going out and doing the scene. I heard about it, and so I was more of like a observer from above, but I wasn't going to the shows. And so I just hear pieces and bits. And I'm 57, so I'm like 7 or 8 years older than all of you guys, like you and Nate and stuff. Because how old are you?
50.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm a little bit above you guys. And so just watching it and listening and hearing the stories and having you guys come in, and